Hello there. My name is Paul Hunting, and welcome to Happiness Unbridled. And a big thank you for joining me today. I was recently described by one of my clients, a lovely lady called Inika Pitts, as a maverick genius. Well, I kind of like that, and I think it's apt. And my take on it would be that I am unorthodox. So here we go. There's a health warning. I am unorthodox, and I do see things probably very differently from a lot of people. And my work tends to reflect that. So it's not everybody's cup of tea, but if it is your cup of tea, then I think you'll enjoy it. So here we go. The title of today's talk is How Unbridled Happiness Can Double Your Income, halve the time you spend making it, and free you from the hamster wheel existence. So that's a 400% increase in productivity. And you're probably thinking, well, yeah, right. How is that possible? Well, let's rewind a bit. I'm assuming that you started your business based on your passion for something. You felt passionate about a product or an idea, something that was unique for you, and your vehicle for sharing this passion with the world was to create a business that would bring profit, financial gain and abundance, but also happiness. It would fulfill you. But what happens with so many people is that they start to run a business to express something that they really believe in and enjoy. And after a few years, they find the business is now running you. And well, I don't know about you, but do you often feel like you're on the hamster wheel of life? I mean, hamsters, furry, delightful, cuddly little creatures that they are, that enjoy doing pedaling, going round and round in circles, getting nowhere, but they seem to enjoy it. Hamsters, you might not know this, but they're related to lemmings. And we all know what the fate of the lemming is. And lemmings, strangely, I've looked this up in The Origin of Species by Charles Dickens. What was his name? Can't remember his name now. Darwin. I knew it began with a D. And it turns out that lemmings are related to people. We're not descended from apes at all. We're descended from lemmings. Look, we do the same thing. So here's the thing. What if our results in life are actually a reflection of who we are? Get your head around that. And the problem being that it's all very well to say that, but what if we have two very different selves? And I'm not talking about two different sides to our personality. I'm talking about two very, very distinct selves. The most common self for us to get involved in is what I call, a lot of people call, the false self. And the false self can never be happy. Whereas behind that sits the true self. And the true self is always happy. And it's a bit like the sun. The sun is always shining, but you can't always see it. It's there all the time. Sometimes it's covered by cloud, and sometimes it's nighttime. But the sun doesn't go away at nighttime. It just becomes obscured by something natural, a natural movement. But it's still there. It's still there shining. It's still there providing warmth. And in terms of extending the metaphor to ourselves, there's always a part of us, true, it's real, and it's always happy. The problem with the false self, which part of the reason why it can never be happy, is that it's always judging, whereas the true self is always understanding. The false self believes that the route to success is some form of hamster wheel. Hard work, grind, relentlessness, all that kind of stuff. Whereas the true self is dynamically effective. It produces results in a very, very different way, completely different way. And part of the problem is that when we're stuck in the false self, we cannot see the true self. We cannot be aware of the true self when we're in the false self. So the paradox is to become aware that the false self is in fact false, we have to step into the true self. Because from the perspective, the viewing point of the true self, we can see the false self. But from the perspective of the false self, we cannot see the true self. So it's a bit of a catch-22 situation. Which is why most people don't even realize it's there, and most people have got no real sense of how to access that deeper power that's within, that can produce the most extraordinary results with very, very little effort. So supposing you can choose between your two selves, which would you rather be? How would you rather be? Would you rather be on the hamster wheel and always judging and never happy? Or would you rather be who you really are and experience unlimited happiness unbridled? It's kind of a rhetorical question in a way. I know what I would choose. And I've had this experience. I have this experience. I've had it. I have it. I go in and out, obviously, because I'm a human being. That's the way it is. But I have found the keys for myself to access the true self. And there's this constant discipline of making this choice. Whenever I find myself stuck in the false self, I know how to choose into the true self. And this is important. I think it really matters. I'm going to talk to you today about the keys of doing that. So friends, Romans, countrymen, fellow entrepreneurs, lend me your ears. And I promise to give them back to you filled with information, ideas, and new paradigms, new ways of seeing things. Because look, we entrepreneurs, we've been heralded, acclaimed as the lifeblood of the economy. But it's not necessary for us to be martyrs. It's not necessary for us to sacrifice our happiness in order to have a successful, thriving, profitable business. So what I'm going to do is, and what I do is I take the ancient wisdoms and I turn these into practical keys to thrive in today's world. So let's start with Aristotle. Now, he was pretty vague about things, let's face it. He said, happiness is the meaning and purpose of life, the whole aim and end of human existence. Well, that's pretty vague, isn't it? No, it's not. It's very, very clear. The Dalai Lama, who speaks, he's the voice of Buddhism to many people, the great Buddhist tradition and wisdom. And he says, quite simply and plainly, the purpose of our lives is to be happy. The whole raison d'etre, the purpose, that's why we're here, is to be happy. That's it. Boom. Socrates says, the unexamined life is not worth living. He's hinting at us that we need to look, we need to start to explore our life. We need to examine things, not take things for granted, and not swallow the baby food, the pre-digested stuff that comes from all kinds of sources. Shakespeare, and this above all, to thine own self be true. What does that mean? Who is this own self? Is this the true self of which we speak? Yeah, I think it is. I think he was referring to this true self, which is invisible, it's subtle, sits behind everything, and it's enormously powerful. But this whole concept, certainly in his day, and still today, is deeply, deeply heretical. If he'd made this more explicit, we wouldn't know about Shakespeare. He would have been executed and his work would have been burnt at the stake along with him. You can bet your life on that. So coming back to the modern day, Richard Branson, wonderful example of someone that has achieved it all. You know, he's incredibly wealthy and successful, and he's also happy. And he says happiness is the secret ingredient for successful business. If you have a happy company, it will be invincible. Okay, well, that's, yeah, okay, but how? How do you do that? So he says, if you follow your dreams and spend your life doing what brings you joy, you are more likely to find success. Oh, hang on a minute, Richard. Surely, if you follow your dreams and spend your life doing what brings you joy, surely that is success. That actually defines the key ingredient of success. Perhaps what he's implying is that once you've got your rock, your confidence, your truth, your self-awareness in place, that is automatically and naturally happy, from there, that's the springboard from which you can leap to anything, any kind of standard of living or lifestyle that you wish to choose and create is up to you. You have a free choice. But the free choice depends on being rock solid in and knowing who you are and why you're here, what your purpose is. So let's have a bit of a myth alert. Myth number one, making money makes you happy. Right. Well, yeah, a lot of people seem to think so. Achieving goals makes you happy. You know, winning prizes, all that kind of stuff. No, wrong. Making money and achieving your goals cannot make you happy. It doesn't work that way, because happiness is inside us already. So nothing from the outside can make us happy. It doesn't work that way. Something else is going on. Unless, of course, your goal is to know who you really are and why you're really here, because that is the source. That's the key to happiness and abundance and true success. So when we get stuck on the hamster wheel, we need an escape plan. So the first thing is to realize that you're not your full self. That isn't who you are. You're not what your mind and your emotions and your programming and your belief systems tell you that you are. That's not who you are. So the second thing is, well, who am I really? You've got to discover who you really are, the true self. Obviously, you've got to have that as a reference point. You have to experience that. Third thing, you need to understand what it is that drives the hamster wheel. What's going on that drives you in relentless circles all your life? What is it? And part of the escape is to set goals that are impossible to achieve on the hamster wheel. These are the not necessarily big in terms of size and quantity, but big in terms of importance and value. So they could be quite subtle, could be ways of being, could be small things in the way you relate to people. But you need goals that cannot be achieved by the daily grind and the relentlessness of the hamster wheel. One of the big things that involved is risking. Sorry, it's all about risk, but it's not about risking your life being reckless. It's about risking being authentic, being more honest, being more open, being more vulnerable in situations where you just want to defend yourself. So bottom line really is put your own happiness first on your business agenda. Now, that's not about being selfish. It's about selfing. It's about putting your own oxygen mask on first before you attempt to help your child even, or the person sitting next to you. Make yourself strong so you can share and help people from a strong position. Make yourself happy so you can make people around you happy. They can bask in the light, the sunshine, the sun of your happiness that is glowing through your being, through your countenance. And in order to do this, it's incredibly important to get a mentor or a coach or someone that's been there, that's been through this, to fully support you in your quest. Because you're going to be tested daily, sometimes minute by minute, because the hamster wheel consciousness will want to suck you back in. It wants to be fed. It wants to be in control. And when it's in control, when it's running the show, life can be hell. So, truth alert. This is like the bleeding obvious. When you're happy, it means you're on purpose. When you're on purpose, it means you're happy. Conversely, when you're unhappy, it means you're off purpose. If you're off purpose, you will be and feel unhappy. Unhappy being stressed out, miserable, anxious, worried, that kind of thing. Ill, sick, etc. All of this. Health problems, financial problems, relationship problems. So, being on the hamster wheel, well, if you're happy on the hamster wheel, fantastic. You've obviously got a good hamster wheel going for you. But most of us aren't. So it's feedback. Being unhappy is feedback that tells us that we're off purpose. So the obvious thing to do is to get on purpose, to find out what our purpose is and align our lives with that purpose. Lao Tzu says, people wait all week for Friday, all year for summer, all life for happiness. What about you? How long are you going to wait for happiness? Are you saving it for later? Remember, the sun is always shining. Even if we don't see it, it's always there. And you're in your laters now. We all are. This is later. So are you ready now to make happiness the purpose of your life, the purpose of your life and your business? Because it is already, really. So you're not changing anything, you're aligning to something that's true. Are you ready to do that? So I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of people over the last 30 years. So I just wanted to pick out, 2 or 3 examples of people that, when they came to me, they absolutely were ready. They were in a situation where they were ready to do this. So the first one was Kim Morgan. She's now the chief executive of Barefoot Coaching, one of the most successful coach skill training and NLP practitioner courses in the UK. And she won Coaching Person of the Year award a few years ago. She's absolutely fantastic lady. And when she came to see me, she was struggling to get 50 quid an hour as a psychotherapist. And then she had a revelation as we were working. She's working with Serendipity, my horse, and you might see pictures of her later. And she just got something. She discovered something inside her, completely transformed her life from that moment onwards. It was remarkable. And she said, well, it was one of the most elegantly led piece of work I've ever done. I came with money issues. Now I'm literally turning business away. And she was, and still is. Fantastic. So Bron Curley, he is the managing director of OSE and printing company, family-owned Dutch printing company, and international, and bought out by Canon. You might have heard of Canon. They're quite a large organization. Of course, not long after they bought the business, they wanted their pound of flesh. So they started to put the squeeze on the operating company in probably all over the world. But I mean, I was dealing with the one in the UK, And they were being asked to achieve profit targets that were ludicrous based on past results. And something needed to happen. So we designed a program where I would work with each of the members of the board of directors individually. They come and spend a day with me on their own individually, because, you know, there were kind of fairly major issues going on between them. And it seemed like a good idea to work with them alone rather than to do a conventional team building thing. But that was going to be second stage. So they all came along over a period of a couple of weeks, and without exception, I mean, it wasn't always plain sailing, but every single one of them got the reference point. They understood, you know, they got the experience of what was possible, what was previously impossible that became possible when they touched in to their true selves. So they knew they could do it, and they completely changed their belief system about the profit targets. And then while I was waiting to get together with them for the second stage, the team building, they'd already done it. They got together one evening over a few pints and reorganized the whole business. They didn't need any further work at all. So it was incredibly cost effective, and it was a wonderful result for them. It wasn't very good for my business, but I was absolutely thrilled. And it convinced me, it underlined for me the power and the cost effectiveness of this work. If you get it right at the right time, it can be utterly amazing. Roger Matthews, he was the chief executive of WCRS, Matthews Mark Antonio, large major player in the advertising industry back in the early 80s. One of my very first clients when I first became a coach. I don't think it was even called coaching back in those days. It was just consulting or whatever. And I sat down with him and he told me his plight. And I couldn't believe what he said. He was so stressed. He was so miserable. He absolutely hated every day of his work. And he just didn't know what to do. He was stuck in the business for all sorts of financial reasons and what have you. He was hip deep in it and he couldn't get out and he hated it. So what was he going to do? And he was so stressed that he had also already started to develop an immune deficiency illness. His body was he was rejecting himself inside. His body was reflecting that. Some kind of rheumatoid arthritis. And I thought, oh my God, what are we going to do? I sat there for a minute and I looked him in the eye and I said to him, Roger, do you want to die or do you want to live? And there was a silence, one of those audible silences in the room while he considered that. And the only thing I could hear was the sweat running down the back of my neck. And he looked at me, he said, yeah, I want to live. I want to live. I said, right. So we went straight for the jugular. He went straight for, who are you? What is your purpose? Why are you here? And it turned out that he was a closet poet, musician, composer. And he had his own studio and he used to create music and write poetry. But he wouldn't share it with anybody because he was too afraid of violating the image that he had to sustain for himself in order to run this huge international advertising agency. So I managed to prize a cassette out of him to listen to it. I said, come on, share it. He said, okay. He shared it. It was wonderful, absolutely fantastic. And that was the seed, the moment, the instant he started to turn his life around. And which he did, which he absolutely did. So, does this remind you of anyone you know? Well, it reminds me of my friend Stuart. Stuart is a fit bloke. Eats well, looks after himself, and over the last few years, he's become a real whiz at table tennis. He's slim, lithe, agile, and the picture of health. And I got an email from him recently, and it said, "Oh, sorry, I haven't been in touch." He was supposed to be doing some. He's my accountant, so he's supposed to done something for me on the business side, when she didn't. And I was starting to chase it. I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Paul, but I'm afraid I've been on my back for the last couple of months. I had a terrible bout of sciatica, which I just couldn't get up. I couldn't move, and then I got an ulcer, and now I've had a double heart bypass operation." This is not only that, I've got water on the lungs, and it's really hindering my recovery. And he said, "Say a little prayer for me." I went, and I could just see him there with his heart cut open. And it made me so angry. Not it made me so angry. I got so angry about how unnecessary this was. I've been teasing him about being on the hamster wheel for years. So come on, come and have a few sessions with me. And he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. And he drove himself over the edge like the lemming. And I just think it's just so sad. It's so sad. But it happens to hundreds, thousands, millions of people. Just push themselves over that edge, and it's so unnecessary. Don't let this happen to you. And I was reflecting on it and making some notes about this presentation, and I wrote a few sentences down. I thought, oh, that looks like a poem. I don't write poetry. I like poetry, especially Shakespeare, but not something that I'm particularly well versed at. Ho ho. So I wrote this down, and I thought, oh well, I'll share it. I'll share it with you guys. And here it is. I'm serving a life sentence with no full stop. The prison is my mind. The bars are my beliefs. The guards are my fears. The stockade is my worldview. The key to freedom is my true self-awareness, and love is the hand that turns it. So look, this is not going to be about the perfect marketing plan, the 7 steps to launching your successful organization. You do need one of those, but that's not what I specialize in. My focus is awareness. It's pure awareness, leadership development through awareness. So my work is to raise self-awareness, because it's awareness that is the driving force to raise results. And not just the quantity of results, but the quality of results. And it's awareness brings happiness and fulfillment. Crazy, I know. It's not the money, it's not the Ferrari, it's the awareness that does it. That's the key, that's the trick, if you like. So I've identified 7 levels of awareness. At the bottom rung, which is where most people, 80–90% probably of the world's population, hang out in what I call sleep running, which is an advanced form of sleep walking, as you can tell. Then above that is snoozing. I'll go into detail, a little bit of detail on each of these in a second. Then above that will be false leadership. Then it's a state of awakening into true leadership. And then above that, the mentor, and the ultimate being the master. So this is, if you like, the pathway, the steps to mastership. So sleep running. Okay, so 80% of the population are, in my opinion, sleep running. And that is a huge spectrum of people, from people that seemingly seem to be the most successful and wealthy and powerful. It doesn't matter. It includes the pundits, the opinion makers, the people that in the media that want to tell us, how to think and how to be, and what's right and what's wrong with the world. Because people who are sleep running they're the victims. They experience life as victims, to whom a victim is someone to whom life happens. They don't create their lives. They become the effect of their life. So there's always someone to blame. If things aren't going well or they're going wrong, seemingly, you've got to find someone to blame, because you can't be wrong. You've got to be right. So you enter into these absurd battles of right and wrong, and proving this and proving that, and this state of mind, this way of being, applies to the people seemingly at the very top of the ladder and people right at the very bottom that have completely lost the plot. But I think everybody in this area has lost the plot. Above that is snoozing. When you're snoozing, you're asleep. You're asleep, and then the alarm goes off, and you want another 5 minutes. We all want another 5 minutes. So we snooze it. We turn the alarm off. But the alarm we get in life is usually pain. It's some kind of discomfort. It could be depression. It could be anxiety. It could be physical pain. It could be an illness. Anything. And of course, to us, we're told pain is bad. We've got to get rid of pain. We don't look at pain. We don't find out what information pain has for us about whether we're on or off course. We've got to get rid of it. Get rid of what we do. And the world will provide us with an infinite variety of ways to get rid of it, from sugar to cocaine to heroin to all, you name it. And you know what I'm talking about. It's out there and it's available. And people are getting very, very, I wouldn't say wealthy, very, very rich on the back of pain, finding ways to get rid of pain. The next level is false leadership. It's like, I'm sort of waking up. I'm not sure if I'm half awake now or half asleep. But you're beginning to realize that the pain is a price that we're paying for something deeper, for resisting our life. Pain is the price we pay for resisting our life. Once we start to realize that, once we start to question the way we're leading our lives, the way we're leading other people, we are starting to wake up. Because in the state of false leadership, the problem is that if we're not fulfilled and happy, we will seek compensation. We will find something to compensate for that, to take away the pain, or to make us seem like we're being happy. And the compensation provided is nearly always toxic. And if we take something toxic into our system, the first reaction is rejection. Our first cigarette, we start coughing. We want to get rid of it. The body wants to get rid of it. So we go, oh, have another one and another one until, excuse me, there you go. The body says, hey, I give up. I'll adapt. And the body has incredible powers of adaptation, which is the good news and the bad news, because it adapts downhill. That's why Stewie, he was adapting downhill, and suddenly, bang, everything falls apart. And this happens. This happens. This is the way it happens. And then we adopt our chosen compensation, our chosen brand of cigarette, our chosen brand of whiskey, or whatever it happens to be. And that becomes part of our self-image, and we think that's who we are. And we define ourselves in terms of something that we're addicted to, that's killing us, that's starving us from the nourishment that is actually going to work. And we're living with these hungers that will never go away, these itches that we can't locate where they itch from, and we can't scratch them. If we do scratch them, they come back. Not a good way to live. But fortunately, there's another level. We keep going. We become sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that really is the good news, because that's often the trigger for change, or seeking something new. And what you can find if you proceed along there is true leadership. And true leadership is really about discovering authentic self-confidence inside you. And that becomes the rock inside that we can depend on, we can trust ourselves, and other people can trust us. And it radiates out. It's kind of like an aura. But people that are truly self-confident, as opposed to, arrogant, which is the pretend version of self-confidence, is the arrogance and the hubris. But true self-confidence is quiet, it's inside, and it radiates out. And those are the beginnings, or the essence, of true leadership. And then above that would be the mentor. When you really are true self-centered, you know who you are, you know why you're here, and for a large percentage of the time you're centered in that. And the power and the energy of that will radiate from you. And you can see people that in whose glow you want to bask. And at the mentor level, you're in a position to develop and help people come up. People on the rungs of the ladder below you, you can assist them because you've been there, and you can take them with you. Or you might, become a professional coach or mentor. Up to you. And then above that, obviously, is the ultimate, the master. But it's the master of self. It's not the master of the world. It's nothing to do with that. It's about mastering yourself through discipline. And the quality generally associated with self-mastery is unconditional love and non-judgmental acceptance, which, I've had moments of that. But, I'm aspiring. I'm still on the journey, and I'm still aiming for that level. So here we go. If you're already a master, or you're absolutely convinced that sleep running is the way to be, the way to go, you probably still wouldn't be tuned into this if that were true. But if you are, then what's available here is probably going to be of very little interest, if anything at all, to you. So that's fine. Goodbye. However, if you're still here, it probably means that you're in one of these sort of more central levels. And if you're snoozing, becoming aware that your leadership is, worthy of a bit of review, or you're starting to wake up, or you've been on the way for quite some time, or you're already at a high level, then yeah, I think we could have a conversation. I think it could be interesting for us to talk and see what we can see. The idea of this is, when we let happiness lead, then it's wealth and health follows. Because awareness is the key, as I keep saying, to unbridled happiness, which leads to unbridled results. So a bit about me, the Maverick Genius, ho-ho. Very briefly, I was born in 1948. I had a Jewish mother and a Hindu father, and my first given name was Vikram. And then when I was about 5 or 6 years old, I don't know when I was called Paul, but this is Paul, and that's my first day at my primary school. We're going into hamster wheel training, St. Paul's School. It was Church of England school. So, Hindu father, Jewish mother, Church of England school. Could be confusing. Well, I think maybe it was. Not at that time consciously, but it did confuse me somewhat later on. So anyway, so that's me. I was getting near to getting closer to 10 years old, 11 years old, when I went to my grammar school. Now, grammar schools in the baby boom era, just after the war, were modelled very successfully on the lines of prisoner of war camps. So I became a prisoner of war in Westminster City School in Victoria, and it was hell. It's just, and I was crushed, and I came out. I survived physically, but I did not survive emotionally. I was tortured, and anyway, I'm not going to dwell on that. But this is me again. This is probably sort of in my early 30s, and I'd been through university and marriage and divorce and going into various business enterprises. And I'd had a very successful, in fact, at that point, I probably still was successfully employed in the advertising business. I was a copywriter, and I was pretty good, and I would make a lot of money. I had a great car, great home, fantastic lifestyle. But I was utterly miserable inside. And finally, I got so hopelessly lost with all that I did, in fact, I took an overdose. And I was discovered by my girlfriend at the time, and she got me out of a deep coma, and which, as they say, a coma is better than a full stop. And I was kind of resurrected, and I woke up again. Oh God, I'm still here. But I vowed I was not going to go on until I found the secret of being happy. And that became my quest. And I gave up everything in pursuit of that. I found it. I think you do. I think if you make a commitment to it, it will show up, because it's already there. It's inside us. You don't have to go anywhere. I did. I trekked around the world looking for it, but it was inside me all the time. That's another story. So here I am. This is where I live, and this is my dream. My dream horse. I dreamt of having a horse that I bred myself. So this is Boris. I've known him since he was a sperm, and as you can see, he's much bigger now. And it was my dream to have have horses and land, and to breed a horse, to have as my partner from birth, and to have that relationship. And this is my lovely wife, and I'm wearing my brown hat, and she's wearing her very, very large pointy hat. As Boris again, talking of hats, knocking mine off. He likes to do that. And that's Twaji, the cat, who completes the family. She turns our, cliche alert, she turns our house into a home, and she tears it to pieces as well. She rips up the sofa, and she rips up anything she can get her paws onto, but she's so adorable, we just kind of let her get away with it. But what doesn't define me, but expresses, the even deeper things about me is I've just recently written a book called Shakespeare's Revelation. And what can I say without sounding arrogant, conceited, and all the rest of it? Let me think. Yeah, okay, here it goes. I'm the only person in 400 years to have realized what Shakespeare's deeper intention is, who he must have been as a being, not necessarily as a physical being, and what the deeper message was that he was conveying to the whole of mankind throughout all his works, his plays and his poems. And I discovered that by accident, and stopped everything for a couple of years, wrote it down, and published this book, volume 1. I figured there was so much to say that there would probably be 20 odd volumes. So I'm working on the second one. Prior to that, about 10 years ago, I wrote this, which is about my work with horses and developing leadership, using horses with humans, and it's called Why Talk to a Guru When You Can Whisper to a Horse, which is rather apt, because, if you want a reflection, if you want to look into a mirror of your true self, either you talk to a guru who doesn't have an ego, so he can reflect back to you, the truth about you, or you whisper to a horse, because the horse doesn't have an ego either, and they will, in the most exquisite way, reflect back to you who you are being. And the information that gives is absolutely priceless, I can promise you. So talking about learning from horses, Not a new idea. Winston Churchill, he knew. He was one of the greatest leaders ever, according to a recent poll that was done about all leaders throughout time. And he says famously, there is something about the outside of a horse that is good for the inside of a man. But how do you get at it? Before him, there was a king in Macedonia, King Philip of Macedonia in something like 300 BC. So that's 2,500 years ago, give or take a few hundred years. And he was in the process of buying this magnificent black stallion, and he was about to part with a lot of money for it. The only trouble was he couldn't ride it. The horse wouldn't let him on. And none of his warriors, none of his men could get anywhere near it either. So he was just about to send it back, and his son, 12-year-old son, came up and said, "Father, let me try." Of course, they all laughed, and he got on the horse, and lo and behold, he had a way. He had a way about him. I think the key was he realized the horse was frightened of his own shadow. So he turned him away from the shadow into the light, metaphor. But the deeper thing is he understood the horse, and the horse understood him, and they developed a relationship. And his father, when he came back from riding the horse, his father said to him, "Get yourself another kingdom, my son, because this one is too small for you." And of course, he became Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great, the image, the brand, if you like, of Alexander the Great was him and his horse. He and his horse were inseparable. And his horse took him into battle, it took him out of battle, and he was his great partner. And it enabled him not only to win the wars, but to win the peace, because people recognize that a great master of horses is a great master. And he genuinely had the key to developing a relationship. He would turn his enemies into friends and win the peace as well as winning the war. And he honored his horse by having his head as an icon, if you like, on the coinage of the day. There's no greater honor. Most kings put their own head on the coin. He put his horse's head on his coins, on his money, because of the debt of gratitude. And this is something that we've lost. The last 50 to 100 years, we've lost daily contact with horses, as transport, as workers. And I think some people can feel the loss. So I'm going to show you a video on the subject of what can we learn from horses as opposed to hamsters, the keys to authentic leadership. And have a look, see what you think. What am I doing that causes Boris, my young horse, when he was just 3 years old, to give so much into this, just to give me so much unconditionally? Hint, it's not force, pressure, or stress. And this is something that was unplanned. It was just a spontaneous playfulness that came out. And a friend of mine was standing there, and I said, I just gave him my phone. I said, "See if you can catch this on film, because it's just so fantastic. See what you think." So let me just give you some technical stuff. Horses will only follow us when we're being authentic. They only follow authentic leadership. And we're only authentic when we're being true to ourselves. So one of the big things is to notice call it the size and quality of the result. I mean, it's difficult to find words sometimes, but the magnificence of the result versus the amount of effort that I was putting in. There was no real effort at all. Everything was going on internally. And it's about put the relationship before the task. When we get stressed out, we often start controlling how people do the tasks. But the key to this dynamic level of effectiveness is the relationship. And let the relationship do it. Do the work on the relationship, and the relationship will do the work. So it's like, how can we become more true to ourselves? And from that experience, I've developed 4 keys of the 4 pillars, if you like, the 4 pillars of unbridled results. Because why would a prey animal willingly accept a predator? Why would Boris willingly accept me, a predator, as his leader? First of all, there had to be understanding. He had to understand what I was asking him. But it had to be deeper than that, because he might understand me, but why would he do it, even if he didn't understand? So it has to be understanding in terms of empathy. And there had to be an understanding between us. And that goes hand in hand with, or hand in hoof, if you like, with respect. He has to respect me in order to do what I'm asking him to do. And in order for him to respect me, guess what? I have to respect me. So it's about my self-respect. And the difference between, respect and fear. Jump how high? It's like, is that out of fear or is that out of respect? The difference is trust. He has to trust me that I'm not going to hurt him. And I have to trust myself that I'm not going to hurt myself. These are the keys. And the last one is the E, the engagement. And the E could stand for enthusiasm or energy. But I need to be as engaged, not physically, but I need to be engaged, involved in the present, in the now, in the here and now with him. And obviously, at the same time, I'm with myself too. And that's what provides what has become the true model of authentic leadership. I think that's cool that the pillars of authentic leadership actually relate to what it is, the truth. And as Gandhi said, be the change you want to see. In order to implement this, you've got to work on yourself. You've got to develop these qualities in yourself. And which means, in a practical sense, I am safe to be with. I am true to myself. I am communicating clearly in his world. That's the empathetic side of things. And I'm as vulnerable as he needs to be. Like, I take the risk first. Those are the keys to this kind of, well, there's only one kind of authentic leadership, but the way I see authentic leadership working and being practical. And the trust, respect, understanding, and energy that we build inside ourselves is magnified by the teams. So that's where the focus needs to be. Your business. If you set your business up in a way, so the purpose is for you to build up these 4 pillars inside yourself, the result, the reward of doing that is that it gets reflected out and magnified by others around you, in your teams, and also obviously in your personal life, your relationships, your families, and your children. And yeah, so the key then, the secret, the reason, the way to double your income and halve the time you spend making it, if that's what you want. If you want a 400% increase in productivity, it will come as a 400% increase in trust, respect, understanding, and energy. So it's allow the authentic relationships to do it for you. In other words, you need to choose. You need to choose to move from your false self to your true self. This is Cy Blackman. He's my current marketing guru. He came to spend a day with me a couple of months ago. And you can see on the left, he was completely stuck. The horse had completely disempowered him. And then he got in touch with who he really is, which is quite magnificent. And the horse started not running away, but running around him and following him and being with him and playing with him at a level that I have never seen before in such a short space of time. And as he says, this is a perfect metaphor for how I sometimes get stuck in a rut. Suddenly my whole energy shifted, and serendipity, that's the horse, was doing everything I wanted and more. The same shifts are now happening in my business and personal life. Before you do any other leadership development program, do Paul's amazing horse thing. Cy Blackburn. So there you go. Again, double your income, halve the time you spend making it. Build trust, respect, understanding, and engagement in yourself. And that will lead you into being your true self. But it does involve a risk. Of course it involves a risk. If it were easy, if there were no risk, you'd already be doing it. It's the fear that stops us. So 3 little things that you can do today to take you forward, to take you into that space or take you towards that space, is to realize when you're judging, and instead of judging somebody, look for the good in that person and acknowledge the good rather than try and criticize what's not working. That's tough. It can be tough, but try it, do it, and it works. It works. The other thing is, don't withhold, but share your truth. Take a risk. Whatever the situation is, withholding energy, withholding information, withholding acknowledgement, withholding negative feedback, anything like that, blocks your energy inside, blocks your relationship, and stops the energy from flowing. So take a risk, share what's true for you in the situation, become skilled at delivering negative feedback in a positive way. These are vital skills, because feedback, positive and negative, is just information. And without that information, people are lost. We're lost, they're lost. The third thing that you might want to try is discover the power of honesty. And there's a kind of gradation here of depth of challenge. Is think of a situation where either someone's lied to you. I mean, we lie. Human beings lie all the time. I mean, there's nothing surprising about that, because we're in fear all the time. We generate fear the whole time, and we tell lies in order to protect ourselves. I'm not talking about deliberate fraudulent deceptions. I'm just talking about the everyday lies that we tell, that we, because we feel guilty or ashamed or embarrassed or whatever it is. And so think about someone that either you've lied to, that will be good, or someone that's lied, has lied to you. Because whenever there's a lie between you, you both know that it's there. To find a way to repair it, find a way to acknowledge that and bring it out into the open, out of the dark, into the sun. Okay? So I talked about my client Kim in the early stages of this, who won the Coaching Person of the Year award. Now, I think there should be a similar award for the Coached Person of the Year. And if I was to pick one of my clients over the last few years that would deserve that award, it would be Angela. or Angela. She's an English lady who's married a German guy. They live in Germany, and she's the chief executive of unpronounceable company. I'm not even going to take a shot at that, take a swing at it. But you help yourself. And she came to me because she was relaunching her business, and she felt profound lack of confidence. She couldn't understand why she just lacked so much confidence in something that she was really, really good at, translating, and she's been very successful. And so we worked on that, and she was getting nowhere. The horse was just kind of not responding. And I said, there's something incongruous here. What's really going on? Because this all ain't buying what you're selling. And she said, well, actually, I'm anyway. Then it all started to come out. She was, in a real pickle with her marriage and the triangle between her husband, the daughter, the teenage daughter. And she was trying to protect the daughter by not telling anyone. The daughter was getting sick and coming out with all kinds of psychosomatic symptomology. So we, it came out. She found something. She found something incredible, just like Kim actually in our session together. And then we worked together for 3-6 months to integrate what she'd learned into her life. And she said, Paul guided me through a minefield of complex negotiations and insights where I, my daughter, and husband, we all grew personally, forgave each other, and resolved our differences with grace and love. I have no words to adequately express my gratitude. But she did the work. She courageously, amazingly diverted what could have been an awful, acrimonious divorce. You know how divorces can go. It can be awful. And the impact on the kids, the children, it can be devastating for life. And anyway, she averted all that, and she came out of it, a much, much greater person. And she's now thriving in her business. So there you go. So I'm offering you a free breakthrough session, and not with Tony Robbins, with me, even better. But I definitely echo what Tony says, which is success without happiness is the greatest failure. Absolutely. Success without happiness is the greatest tragedy. So the session will be answering the question, I'll answer any question that you have about anything that I've said, obviously, but it's really, the focus is how can you put your own happiness first? And we'll work together on that. You'll also get a free copy of Why Talk to a Guru, When You Can Whisper to a Horse, just for booking in the session, just for booking call, that comes along with it. And the thing is, why am I doing this? Well, I actually only want a few highly committed clients. I'm not like a lot of coaches. I'm in my 70th year at the moment. No, I'm in my 71st year. I turned 70 this year, so I'm kind of winding down, and I've got another 25 books to write, and but I love my work. I love my work with clients, and but I just want a few. I don't want hundreds of clients like some coaches do, who are just starting up or just at the prime of their business. And from the selfing point of view, as Gandhi said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. So I love just giving away what I've got for free, so call me. And the other way to look at it is like, do you really want to pass on your baggage to your kids and your family and just have this be your last will and testament? Oh, by the way, there's all these very heavy bags that I've been carrying with me all my life. Maybe you'll have a better shot at it than I have. No, they won't. Give them a break. Get rid of it now when you can. Really, because as you've seen, either we break through or we break down. So have a breakthrough. Have a breakthrough session. everybody, the only certainty in life is that we're going to die. Everybody dies. There's nothing uncertain or mysterious about that. Is there life after death? I don't know. But the question is there life before death? Because it's only the few who really live. Only the few really, really grab the truth about who they are and live their lives from that in happiness unbridled. So Woody Allen said, I'm not afraid of death. I just don't want to be there when it happens. And my point of view is, I'm not afraid of death either. It's life that scares the shit out of me. Life is a scary place. This is a scary planet. You know, we need ways of handling, managing, and mastering the fear that will stop us being who we really are. So book yourself in at the end of this webinar. And just as a quick recap, unbridled happiness. It's not just a nice feeling. It's not just a sentiment. It's not wishy-washy, namby-pamby. It's incredibly, incredibly, incredibly powerful because it evokes in ourselves and others the key qualities of trust, respect, understanding, enthusiasm, engagement, attraction, and effective, loving relationships, and health, wealth, and true success on all the levels. So, look, nothing in the world can make you happy because you already are. That's the truth. But you can change what makes you unhappy. So click here now to book your free breakthrough session. Hurry, hurry while stocks last, because I'm not talking to a lot of people because, you know, I'm incredibly busy, and but I would like to talk to you if you would like to talk to me. So get in touch now and change what makes you unhappy. Thank you so much for being with me, and I really hope to speak to you soon.